official newspaper of the Borough of Belmar and the Asbury Park Press on December 7, 2017, and notice of this meeting was posted on the posted on the bulletin board of this building.
Okay. Do you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could you just remain standing for a few moments to honor our military and their family, and of course recognize President Bush, who had died this past week. Okay, thank you. Council, if you could join me down to off the dais. We have a member of the planning board. He is stepping down, so we want to recognize him for his years of work on the planning board. He was the director for many, many years. Probably all know him. Ed Windus. Probably seen him running on the boardwalk. And we knew you were coming, but we don't want to tell anybody, but we're totally prepared. Be careful of this ink, it's still wet, okay? All right. The corners in there. Here's a resolution from the Borough of Belmar endorsing Ed Windus. Whereas the Borough of Belmar Planning Board has heard hundreds of applications for bulk and use variances, minor and major subdivisions, and site plan applications for residential and commercial properties performing a vital governmental service for the residents of Belmar. And whereas Ed Windus has served as a Class 4 member of the Planning Board for over 20 years. Whereas Ed also served as chairman of the board for most of those years. And whereas Ed has brought many years of experience and knowledge to the board, now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council and all the residents of the borough of Belmar that Edward Windus be honored for the many years of dedicated service and knowledge he has brought to the Belmar Planning Board.
I'd just like to thank the present board members and all past board members for their support throughout the years. And I'd like to thank you, Brian, Mayor Doherty, Mayor Pringle, who first appointed me to the board 20-some years ago. Just a big thank you.
Okay. Now, is there anybody out there whose applications were turned down by Ed in the last 20 years? He's sitting back there in the right-hand corner. Yep. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it.
Can we get a photo? Can we get a
Photo.
Pat, you want to come up and have your...
Yes.
Come on, Pat.
Come on up.
That's not Eddie, that's
That's Danny.
Danny. Come on, Danny. Come on up here.
Kelsey, come on up.
That's not Kelsey.
That's Kelsey.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Come on up.
Kelsey, I didn't recognize you with your long hair. Wow.
At least we're not
Do you still have that medal?
Just the kid.
Remember, was it? Looked like a skull.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You got these gold ones?
See you later.
Summary. Oh, really? Colleen, do we have someone from the library here?
Yes, we do. Could members of the library board come up for the workshop presentation? Helps if I turn it on. And we need to actually talk right now.
I'm pretty loud, so I think I'll. Oh, I see, you're right. Yeah, new sound system.
Yes, we do.
Before you get started, I just want to tell you what a great job the new community theater center that the library is handling is doing, just fabulous. Fabulous.
Thank you, and that's.
Are you used to talking to a microphone?
I'm pretty used to it, but this was real perfect. Thank you, that's, a lot of what we want to talk about, and make sure that we're all on board and we all are communicating as far as the community center goes, because we are so incredibly pleased with our programs and what's been going on there. On behalf of the library trustees, I'm Carrie White, I think I know everybody. This is Johanna Robinson. We're representing the library trustees this evening, and we do thank you for letting us come in and speak for a few moments. Basically, through some workshops and different institutions, we're realizing that the library board is not 100% in compliance with some of our bylaws and state regulations. So we passed a resolution at our last meeting to become compliant with all of this. So we wanted to take time to reach out to you guys to make sure that we can bridge this gap but we do need to have some representation from the borough at our meetings in order to be compliant. So that's part of, there's so much that we want to do with the library, and it's such a beautiful historic building. We're working right now with a historical architect to revamp the existing space. So according to the bylaws, we should have the mayor or a designee present at the meetings. So that's something we want to start working towards, especially, I know there's been a lot of transition, obviously, over the year and moving into next year. So we want to make sure that we're all on board with that, so that we can make sure that we are doing the right thing financially with the building and with, with our accounts and everything. Another pressing issue is the community center, and we did want to make sure that you're aware of the programs we are running there. Thank you for recognizing that. We have, we have yoga, mahjong, all kinds of evening events, and what's nice is that the makerspace, that's the biggest thing, and that's where we're really trying to get the kids from the elementary school involved in the makerspace at the community center. And it's it's a space that we can't host at the Belmar Public Library. Obviously, we've been there. The building's like 1 million years old, and we're working on it. Like I said, we currently have a feasibility study to update the building, and in order to host some of these programs. But we do want to keep a partnership going with the community center in order to keep the makerspace alive, in order to continue to do some of our programs there.
Because we basically outgrew the library space, because the programs have done so well and so many people are involved, we need more room. So that's one of the biggest issues that we're having as far as space.
So we do hope, basically what we want, what we hope for is that we can work together when we start negotiating for that space, and at least, have some sort of communication to make sure, because if we're not going to be able to continue to use that space, then we need to look for some other options, because like we said, some of our programs have just outgrown the space that we have at the moment. So we're hoping that we can kind of have a seat at the table in those negotiations or in those conversations about the existing space. And we just hope to keep those programs alive. We invite you to come and see them if you haven't already. I know that Councilman McCracken went over and checked out the makerspace, and we had a conversation about that. It's just like a really cool program we're running over there. So I hope to keep it alive.
Colleen, can you tell us what the negotiation is, where we stand right now with the Methodist Church?
Sure. Essentially, it's we've had conversations with the UMC, with the greater UMC diocese, and in light of the incoming administration, and there's a desire to give some time. So right now, the lease is being extended to at least June 30th of next year to give the new administration time to negotiate the longer-term stipulations of that. So, yeah.
That's very positive. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you want to sit in on some of the talks between the borough and the church, because you're directly...
We are. We've invested a lot of money into the space, and, there's just want to make sure that we can, if we aren't able to use that space, that we're able to move some of that equipment somewhere else, or be able to find another space where we can host those programs. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great space where we love using it, and, you know, I think it's wonderful for our community, and we all agree on that. I mean, it's a great space. So, yeah, we're just hoping that at least we could be kept in the loop on it, so that if there is an issue, we have enough time to work out some new programs.
Joanna, at the last meeting, you and Sharon had just gotten back from the state library convention, and you brought back some things about how to get Belmar up to, can you tell us something about that?
There's a couple of things that we're not in compliance with.
Can you just talk into the microphone so that...
There's a couple of things that we're not in compliance with.
For people who don't know, Joanna is the daughter of Grace Roper, who was librarian for Belmar for so many years.
So as far as terms, I know recently, for the past 2 years, it's come up every year that the whole board is reappointed. And basically, it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be, there's 5-year terms. And right now, our board is up for,
You mean staggered terms?
yes, staggered
Yeah,
terms.
absolutely.
Yeah. And right now, we're all, as of 31st, we don't have a board that's appointed. What definitive is as far as that. So there's a lot of different things that stood out. We did forward some of the information that we got from the New Jersey State Library Board to our present mayor and also Mr. Walsifer. So I'm not sure if you received that information. There is a PowerPoint that goes over everything as far as what we need to be in compliance with.
Now, you have a meeting next
We have a meeting next Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
So,
One of the things that we need to make sure is that we do have a designee from the mayor's office, either the mayor's to be there or a designated person for the mayor that has to attend each one of the meetings. That's one of the things that we're not in compliance with. And I know with the transition and a lot of different things going on, we really haven't had a representative there for most of this year.
now what about the funding? That was also another problem you brought up, funding for the library.
funding is basically, the library is supposed to be in charge of their own funding, as opposed to like, it being with the borough. It should be with the borough, but we're supposed to have our own treasurer, our own attorney, a bookkeeper, et cetera. So we're not in compliance as far as that. So that's something that we need to look into. We also, as far as a director of the library, we should have a full-time director. Right now, we don't have that.
How is that different than the librarian?
The library, well, that it would be a librarian that is qualified as far as a librarian that has degree. That we have, right now, we don't have someone that's degree as a librarian, she's part-time. You know, so, and basically, having a director, she takes on a lot of the roles that aren't being maintained right now. And in conversations between, like, the mayor and the trustees also.
When you say she, if the director could be a male,
It could
right?
be male, yes.
And basically, we need to get organized, and we are aware of that. We passed a resolution that we want to get organized, and we want to be on board, we want to be
Sure.
compliant. So that's where, and it's a lot of work, and we know that. And so we're just coming here to make sure that we're bridging any kind of gap we have in communication between the administration of the borough and the library board, so that we can get all of our ducks in a row, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, we just need to have a lot of the transparency that we right now don't have. So there's a lot of things that come up that we can't answer because we're not knowledgeable of it as a board.
Jen, you have any questions?
No, I'm glad to see that you're on top of it. You know, between the library and the new community center, and they're both exceptional spaces. And I'm glad that they're being fully utilized. So I'm glad to hear that it goes through June and hopefully beyond that. I'm hoping there's not a problem, but I think the collaboration is important. And I'm glad that you've been aware of it and you're pointing that out. Everything that you just discussed and more, will that be covered at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, with more details and.
Yeah, I mean, it's just at this point,
We
it's
didn't
kind of an
want to-
ongoing
Yeah.
conversation.
The public's invited to your
Yes,
meeting.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So the meeting is at 7 o'clock next Monday?
Yes.
Downstairs in the library, right?
Yes.
Very good. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I think our little library does just an amazing job. I attended a program there this past weekend. I'm going to speak about that during my report. And one of the things I noticed was how well attended it was. So whoever's planning those programs really knows how to get the word out. And the other events I've attended there have just been really, really nice. I'm sorry to say I've been in the community center to see how the space is available, but I haven't seen any activities going on in there yet, so I'm looking forward to a chance to go over and see that. And I really applaud you and commend you for taking the time and making the effort to find out what needs to be done and then take the steps to get it done. Good for you. Thank you.
Mark?
Oh, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, you guys do a great job, so, you know, whatever it's gonna take to get everything in compliance, you know, we're definitely gonna be on board with that, so I'll be discussing a lot of things with you, and I'll also be at the next meeting.
You will be there? Okay, great. Jim?
Thank you for your commitment to the library and Belmar in general. Just the only question I have is the feasibility study you mentioned to update the building. Has that been completed, or is that a study that's currently underway?
It's currently underway, and it's actually on hold because we need, well, I don't know
It
how
is
we're
on
gonna,
hold.
it's on hold pending
What's going on?
what's going on with the community
center.
center, because, you know, obviously, if we're not gonna have use of that building, then it might change how we wanna restructure the existing building. So, but yeah, we do have, I mean, we've been spending a lot of meetings talking about this feasibility study. The building needs a little love, obviously, but it's this beautiful historic building, and trying to keep that, you know, integrity, but it definitely, we wanna utilize the space and, utilize the existing space as much as we can, but with that said, the feasibility study is being put on hold until we figure out exactly what's gonna be going on with the data community center.
If I can just ask, we don't have to wait till June to find out if they're going to continue to be.
No, I mean, that really, 6 months was just to give a little bit of time. I can tell you that the meeting that we had with UMC Church was very positive, very productive, and very happy with how vibrant that space is and the amount of programming that's coming out of it. You know, the intent when we entered into the lease was to acknowledge that this was a phenomenal community resource that we didn't want to lose. You know, we didn't want to lose our food bank, we didn't want to lose our clothes closet. That was kind of the impetus of it, but then it was to say, you know, this is, a place where our residents should be able to go and recreate. And, you know, I particularly, I love and I'm proud of what we've done there because it's chock full of exercise classes, meditation classes, card groups, AA meetings. You know, it's hard pressed right now to find time to find a slot. So it really is wonderful. It's been a great partnership with the library and our recreation program. And I think they see, the UMC sees the benefit of that too, because we're keeping it alive in the community. So again, we don't have to wait until June to find out, but it was just to kind of like buy a little breathing room.
That's great.
Yeah, it's for the new administration to decide what they want to do.
My dad was president of the library for so many years when I was growing up. He'd be very pleased, very, very pleased with what you're doing and keeping it going and making it a true success. When we first talked about the community center, I thought it was a good idea. It's so much better than we ever envisioned. And unfortunately for me, my biggest use of the library when I was a kid was walking home from Little League practice. It had the coldest water fountain. I never stopped to bring home a book. It was great water. Okay, great job. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for having us, we appreciate it, thank you.
Next on the workshop is the jet ski kayak rentals for 2019 workshop. I guess we don't have anybody out there, so we just have to talk amongst ourselves on the dais.
I see Bob Lynch in the back there, he's the president of the Harbor Commission.
Oh,
Maybe Bob would want to come up and explain some of the rates.
or do you want to just sit back and listen there, Bob?
I'd maybe make some comments, but I'll listen for a minute.
Okay. You know, we discussed this 2 weeks ago, and I was looking at the rates, and we were keeping the rates for the boat slips and the other areas of the marina flat, except there was discussion to raise the rates for the kayaks and the jet skis, and I didn't see why, you know, like, people that can afford some of these big boats, they're not getting an increase, but people that really can only afford like a kayak or a jet ski, their rates are gonna go up, especially when we're at 100% capacity for kayaks, and I think we're increasing for, you know, we're not offering them anything more, right?
Well, I think we haven't really made any decision on the slip, the regular slip fees for next year. We hadn't come to any decision on that. We've gotten some information and had an opportunity to look at it, but we hadn't made any decisions. But we looked at the kayaks. The one thing was there's about 100-person backlog of people that want to rent kayak space. So the thought was we either want to build more space for the kayaks, or since there's a demand for it, our rates are lower than a lot of other places in the river.
Isn't that a
and
good
also
thing?
outside the area.
Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, well, I think we also have a split between residents that use the kayak rentals and people outside of town. So we have two rates, and we thought we could raise the rate for the kayaks, maybe raise it more for the people outside of Belmar, and keep the rate more competitive for the residents. And then, you know, if people don't like the increased rate from outside, they will give up their spots, and it'll be an opportunity for Belmar residents to take those spots. And kind of a general business sense is that if there's a demand for something, we should be able to raise the rates. I mean, that was the thought. If there's a backlog of 100-some people, then they would be willing to pay a little more for it.
Is it possible to, I know we discussed this a couple of years ago, because a lot of people drop in their kayaks down at the end of the beach, I don't know, it's 18th, 19th, or 20th. But it certainly wouldn't be in the way of anything if there were some kayak slips there. So, and that's kind of adding to it, rather than adding to it at the marina and increasing more of the parking problem. Because I've seen so many people with their trailers or drag their kayaks across the street and drop it in the ocean there.
Wouldn't have any, I mean, I don't think it's a marina's decision to put kayak racks at the beach. It might be a different decision, but if that's something that one you consider, yeah.
And I personally spoke to 4 different owners of jet skis and kayaks, but mostly jet skis, that have space there. And, you know, we try to be family friendly, and it is dependent upon the weather. So the average of the 4 people I spoke to, the average time that they've taken theirs out for jet skis were 4 times. So that's over $100 each time you take it out. Because again, it is dependent on the weather, dependent on time of day, dependent on how busy it is in the marina. And I looked at the other amounts that the other places charge. We were kind of in the middle, to be honest. There were like 1 or 2 that seemed a little extreme, personally, but I kind of like the idea that we've got the lower beach badges and that we're more of a family-friendly town, so.
Yeah, I thought also on the jet skis that we've done, again, very well. We filled every spot we had available. And I thought our rates were significantly lower. I mean, some of the rates in some of the other areas, like $1,000. We're
We
like,
saw rates on 2 other places, so everyone that we said, no data, you know, we didn't have any data, no data, no data. Like, I didn't even see the prices of the other ones for what the report that we were sent. So
Well,
it was tough to compare apples to apples.
yeah, I look at Atlantic Highlands, because it's also municipal run marina, and they were like, I think $1,000, $1,050, something like that. We're like $750 for people that are not residents and $500 for residents, I think. So we're like half for residents of what they pay in Atlantic Highlands, another municipal marina. Shark River Hills, also a municipal marina, but I think they kind of gave up, they're not doing jet skis. And none of the other marinas have the jet ski ramps that we have, you know, the docking stations that we have. So again, I thought there's also a backlog on the jet skis. So again, there's a demand for it. We're filled up and there's a backlog. Thought was to raise those rates some, to be more in line with some of the other marinas are charging. But we haven't finished our discussions on the slips.
But if you raise the rates, wouldn't that cause some of the people that can afford it now to maybe not use Belmar, and that's how you would?
Well, if they go someplace else, it's more expensive than Belmar.
You wouldn't want to lose residents, though.
So I'm saying, we have two tiers. We have a residence and we have a non-resident. So I wasn't in favor of raising the residence rate that much.
Yeah. And 750 is, yeah.
I mean, I don't have a kayak or a jet ski. It just seems to me that if we have a backlog, then we're doing something right. You know, it's probably a good price. You know, I'd hate to have to chase somebody away because they could afford it this year, but they won't be able to afford the increase. You know, their biggest boat is a kayak, or their biggest boat is a jet ski, so.
And I know it's not the marina, but I think we can look into something to adding some kayak slips down at the beach.
Certainly, it's something that could be investigated. Kayak racks, unfortunately, require a CAFA permit. We learned that lesson in the marina when we saw that rapid expansion of kayak slips probably about 5 years ago. So that's all been now approved by CAFRA, but they were very clear that any expansion of that would require modification, and that would also apply to beachfront. But it doesn't mean it's impossible, it's just a process.
Right. The only problem is at the beachfront, you're looking at more experienced kayaker to get out through the waves, or come in through the waves. And you have bathers sometimes coming in with a kayak. You don't necessarily come in straight, run over some bathers, so you'd almost have to limit, you know, the quality of your ability to kayak in the ocean than at the riverfront.
Yeah, I think we talked, Brian, yeah, you're right. I think, you know, ocean kayaks are a lot different than a lot of the kayaks that are in the racks and paddleboards.
Skill levels.
Yeah,
Much
and
more
in the river, much easier to get in and out of the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark, do you have anything?
No, I'm just in favor of raising it. I'm on the Harbor Commission. There was a lot of discussion about it, and at least raising it for the non-residents. So even if a couple people leave, we have more room for our residents to have the jet skis and the kayaks down there. So if we don't raise the resident rate, I at least think that we should raise up the non-resident rate.
Thank you. Jim?
Do the residents have priority on the waiting list?
No, they just by
First come.
first served.
Okay.
We really we didn't have an idea how many. We asked for what the mix was, and we found out some information on the mix of residents and non-residents. I think it's
about
like 50-50 in both areas.
And there's no way we could show preference to residents, right? Really can't do that.
Well, we could show preference. No, if we're going to use it, you know,
Sure.
first come, first served
That's not
basis.
fair. I mean, it's really, I
Yeah.
think that's the only way you can really do it.
And we show preference just by having different rates for residents, rates for non-residents.
You know what, I can say I was on the Harbor Commission when we first started using the jet ski racks. And I remember several discussions about what the pricing was gonna be. And it was a conscious decision to price them low to attract the tenants, with the understanding that once it was full, the rates were gonna go up. And I think part of that reason that got on hold and why we're discussing it now instead of it having been done already is because of all the work that went on with the marina that was under construction and all that other stuff going on. And now that everything's cleaned up over there, I think now's the time to really look at it. Now, I have kayaks in the rack over there. The suggestion that I saw was to raise the rate $100. And my wife said, yeah, if they're gonna throw in concierge service, fine, otherwise we're out of here, right? So, I mean, I think some kind of increase, especially in the jet skis, is warranted. I definitely wanna see if there's a way we can lessen the impact on our residents. And kayaks over there. But having them over there is a convenience. Don't have to put them on my car and just take them out and go over to the Shark River. But again, we only got to use them maybe 5 times all that summer because it is dependent on weather and your schedule and all this. But the fact that it's there, to me, right now, it's worth the money.
It becomes
I
a place for people to store things too, you know. You have it at home or you have it in a kayak rack over
I
there.
have a rack in my house, so
Yeah.
I've only got 1 boat on it now. I got 2 boats over there.
So, I mean, we've got a number of kayaks and paddleboards there, and, I mean, people don't use them every week or every weekend. So,
I think that was the biggest feedback that I received, just because of the frequency of being able to use it for the jet skis especially. You know, it's well over $100 for just going out 4 times. And I know there's some new slips there that are really, you know, up to date, and then the ones that are currently there, that's been there for years, are, you know, they need a little bit of replacing eventually. But
well, the jet ski, they're all new.
Yeah, the jet ski was all in.
just the last 5.
I mean, they're all,
They were
There's no-
purchased at the
nothing-
same time.
yeah,
I
pretty
think there were a
The
few that
ones-
had some faulty rollers, and we were able to utilize the warranty with the manufacturer. So that might be the distinction between some that look older and some that look newer. But they were all purchased at the same tranche.
you know, I think we had like 15 maybe at first and another 5 or something like that, so. But the fact that they're filled and both the jet skis and the kayaks have a waiting list, I think, opens up the opportunity to raise the fees a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Did a good job, just being from the back of the room.
Well, the other thing, I guess, on the boat slips too, we're analyzing how we compare to some of the other marinas. We have a series of the smaller boats, the wooden docks, which are closest to the pier and the marina grill. And I certainly wouldn't want to raise those rates. And if anything, I had suggested maybe we lower those rates because they're pretty simplistic. They're wooden docks. There's no water, no electric. They're what they call frog hooks for making contact with the dock and to get on and off the boat. So, and looking at those rates, there are places that are for simple docks without a lot of amenities that could be cheaper. And we have, I guess we only rented about half of those or so, 60 or 70% of those. So maybe in that case, we want to attract, you know, more smaller boats. And but maybe we just wait and see what happens there. And then we have some leases that are, some people leave their boats year-round, annual leases. And analyzing some of the annual leases versus a seasonal lease, it seems like they're getting a great bargain for leaving their boats for those 4 months through the winter time. Now, people aren't using their boats, but they're storing in there, and it's like a very inexpensive way to store your boat. So I thought that was something I brought up and we talked about, possibly looking at the seasonal leases.
Okay.
And maybe there's something there that we want to kind of determine if there's a need, if there's an opportunity to raise the rates a little bit there. But we haven't really finished the discussion on the rates.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Also on the workshop, Chris Brandel, you want to come up and try to fill in the council while you're here?
Okay, I just wanted to put my old truck in the plaza next to the restaurant there, so people could take pictures, vintage old truck, tailgate, that's all, little community club. So I got a insurance rider from my insurance company with Belmar on it. Do you want this? Look at
Hollywood.
Yeah.
I gotta ask you, does the truck leak?
No.
Oil, anything like that? It's clean?
Yeah,
Clean.
clean, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Now, When I first heard it yesterday, it sounded very simple. And I started thinking about it, and I realized, well, the town decorates the plaza.
Yeah.
Christmas tree, lights all around. And then, like, your truck would actually be on public property.
Yeah,
What would prevent another resident from just coming in, decorating their truck or their car and putting it on the plaza also? Or if they live across the street from a park, decorating their truck or car and driving it up to the gazebo or in front of the tennis courts, or mooring some type of a boat in the lake, or putting a lifeguard stand on the boardwalk, which is public property. And who's to say what holiday they could do this for? You know, they could, you know, if it's on public land, and if we let you do it on public land, how can we can say no to them for a Halloween decoration or a Easter decoration or someone's birthday that they want to do? I think that's the problem we get in. We have an ordinance right now that you can't park a vehicle on borough property, which our parks are. And who's to say, what's that?
Parking permit for the month to just have it there, just for anybody to take pictures, sit in it and just take pictures.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do, you know, just more or less for me, honestly, it was like to have like Steve Lacko, you know, to be able to, it's a prop, it's an ornament, it's a decoration. Go and take pictures.
Okay. Granted, it
That's
seems
it.
harmless. What would
That's
prevent,
all it was. If it's
what would
not,
prevent someone from doing the same thing and driving their vehicle to the gazebo and using it as a prop for picture taking?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where the potential for this working out very well is good, but the potential for abuse is there too. We don't know what some people would want to use as a prop on public property. I mean, you have a problem right now with the creche and the menorah. Some people object to a religious ornament. I can just imagine what some residents could come up with and say, hey, you do it at the plaza, why not at Silver Lake, why not at McCleary Park for a photo op? You know, that's, you know, so, council people, how do you feel about this?
I like the idea. I mean, I think it's little change for the plaza. You got the tree there, and I saw a picture of it before it was removed yesterday, and I just thought it was kind of interesting, and I don't know.
How would you feel about someone
And I need a
parking a
Christmas
car?
picture of my kid, so
How do you feel about someone parking a car at the gazebo or
I
the
don't think
lake?
anybody would just do that. They would have to come forward or get a rider or whatever. Obviously, the
Could we
mayor
say
and
no to
council
them?
have, sure, I mean, it's at the discretion of the mayor and council, but
How can we say no to them if we say yes to here? I think we need more discussion. I think there's got to be rules written down.
Can I get a little
Yeah.
information? Would it be okay?
Right,
Sure.
in here.
You're only the attorney, right?
Yeah, just so I'll have to answer a lot of questions. So this is certificate of liability insurance you have, but is the vehicle itself registered, insured,
Yes.
operational?
Yeah.
Okay, and where do you want to park it?
Right, catty corner, right up against the, my awning there.
So on the
Actually, I
side,
had tables.
it's not like an parking space.
On the pavers.
on
On the pavers. I had tables.
But it's not a marked parking space?
No,
No.
it's not parking.
Okay, so it's not, okay. And you're in Belmar Plaza, which means it's the public right of way. is
Yeah,
what
it's
we're talking
public.
about. Okay, because you don't have, the storefront goes right up to the right of way. If I recall correctly.
I believe you're correct.
Okay. Does it have any, what does it have on the vehicle? Does it have any markings that's like, or advertising for your business?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, they're just magnetic signs, I can take them off, that's not a problem. I mean,
I mean, so the
have
problem with it
garland,
is-
all it's on there is garland and a wreath and a sled, some pillows in the back. That's it.
The problem is not necessarily a symbolic or, The issue is that, you know, the mayor's concern is apt in that if you allow one business to do that, then we have to let everybody do it. Or we have to bid the spot like we do for other concessions, the boardwalk area or things like that. Can't just allow one person to go up. Who is your landlord?
John Junko.
And he owns the plaza?
No.
It's the building adjacent, abutting the plaza.
Okay,
Okay.
so his property line ends at the public right of way or the space, okay, and the storefronts. Okay. I mean, if it's validly registered, insured, and licensed, you know, it's a valid vehicle, you're allowed to park it anywhere that's a valid parking space according to the parking regulations, obviously. Parking it on the right of way is an issue because then, you know, I was saying the gazebo, or, I mean, you could put advertising on the boardwalk for any business, anyone who's in their pavilions, things like that. It opens up a door, and it brings up questions of local public contracts law as to whether you can allow one business to do it without bidding it to everybody. That's the real issue with it. We could talk more about it and try to figure out a way. I mean, for, you know, the car in the spaces is no problem. People do that all the time.
Right.
There's towns everywhere. Every tanning salon you see has a graphically wrapped truck that's parked in the parking lot in front of it because the town has some sign ordinance that you're not allowed to have a moving sign or a large sign on the highway or what have you. So that's not a problem. Perhaps that's the way we could get around it with maybe an accommodation of some kind. Or we have to look at the parking ordinance, 100 feet or some accommodation we could accomplish in that way. Putting on the right of way opens up a whole can of worms. It probably doesn't fit your holiday season schedule at this point, 3 weeks away. So.
I think we have our captain of police who has researched.
Well, no, actually, I did have a conversation with the chief, and we would oppose this vehicle in that area due to security purposes, especially for the event coming up and throughout the holiday season. We would not like that vehicle in the plaza, you know, due to pedestrians, due to the tree being there, and just the amount of people in the area as a vehicle in a event area, just for security purposes. That's our feeling on it. We do not want to get it, or any vehicle in that area, to speak, for security.
Rick, can I ask you a question? We have the car show, which is the antique cars which park all over the plaza. That has to go with special events. Now, I know that this is only one vehicle, and that's why I didn't answer Mr. Brandel, because I was in discussions with the police department and DPW about it, to give him some type of an answer. But in my mind, whether it's one car or you have 50 cars in a car show, I think it really has to go into the special events, because, you know, it's using that space.
Well, the trigger for the special events is a disruption of the ordinary traffic flow, and safety. So, I mean, the police department's concerns, perhaps that's a procedural way. If we put it on the right of way, the public right of way, it opens up a whole other can of worms with respect to what other businesses are allowed to put stuff where on our property, opens up challenges in local public contracts law by other businesses. The mayor's concerns in that regard are spot on.
So how does the car show?
But in a parking space where cars ordinarily belong is a totally different animal like the event. Maybe the special events permit, we can find a way, procedural way, or the special events permit if they be obviously structured.
Because they are allowed in the car show, which.
Right, because they're all in
Yeah,
parking
it's great
spaces, and you're
events.
just telling the police, hey, we're gonna have a car show here, and there's gonna be added,
Traffic
you know,
control.
traffic controls, we need some help, that sort
Just
of.
drive around town, park in different spots, that's all.
Yeah, I mean.
That's all. I mean, I was just looking to do something fun.
Yeah, no, it's just
I wasn't
when you
looking to
go
have
to
a
public
big,
property,
big ordeal
there's a
out of this at
problem.
all, honestly. That's it. I mean, I'll pull it. I mean, I'm over it.
You know, it's a
It's
nice
a shame.
idea.
It's sad. It's sad to me.
Yeah,
It's
It's
seven
really
years.
sad to me, because I was just looking to provide something fun,
Yeah.
something different. I swear. Has nothing to do with nothing.
Absolutely.
The lawyers always
But you
penalize
see
what
our
you guys are
suggestion.
doing. I mean, you can look at our agenda tonight. We have a resolution on litigation where accommodations were made for a particular business owner, and then later on it came back to be an issue. So that's the unfortunate caution that the borough has to engage in, although obviously you're trying to do the right thing. So we can talk about special events permit, try to figure something out.
That's a
For
possibility.
19 or something.
It's a way to address it, but.
I think it's a procedural way to regulate it, I mean, put some controls in this. The mayor's, I mean, look, we have litigation on tonight that we settled for reasons that are substantially similar to this, right? No big deal goes unpunished.
Right.
So, maybe we can figure out a way around it.
We could, and for whatever it's worth, and I know it's not ideal what you're looking for. I saw it today, parked right at the base of the plaza, it looked lovely, it does look nice, and, you know, I think
It's
if
a good
there's a
job.
way to figure it out in the future, there could be one.
I did send an email, I guess I might have different emails, sent an email out on the 20th of November.
I didn't get it. You might have misspelled my
You got
name.
I responded to you.
It was a group email for everybody, I guess it didn't make it.
I responded to you
All right.
and council.
So
Thanks.
what's your email?
Brandel@brandelrestaurant.com, no E in Brandel. Brandel,
B-R-A-N-D-L.
DL@brandelrestaurant.com.
Okay, I'll just send you an email with my contact information.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Petitions, anybody out in the audience with a petition? If you have one, up, no one's coming up, so we'll move on to approval of minutes. Councilwoman Nicolai?
Where's the thing?
Uh-oh.
I hereby move to approve the minutes of the meeting from November 20th, 2018. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
That was excellent.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed?
Okay, reports of council. Jen, you have any reports you'd like to make?
Had an opportunity to attend the Nora lighting last evening. It was a very nice event, well attended, and it's a pleasure to be there.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is, I guess I should have brought it up under workshop, but there is down in Marina, we also discussed at the Harbor Commission meeting that there's like 6 or 8 spots that are straight in, and we want to extend them to the boat owners. Those last 6 spots that are straight in right by the fuel pump, the Harbor Commission is asking if they could be designated for boat owners. So I'm not sure how the council feels about adding a few more spots, but if you look at down the Marina, you know, we have all those spaces right along the walkway for boat owners, and we added those 8.
Where are you talking about, like right when you come in the driveway?
Right when you come in the driveway, there's like 8 spots that are directly straight in right by the fuel pump. And they were asking if we could designate those 8 spots to boat owners.
Is any of that like handicap parking or anything like that right now?
No.
Okay. Yeah. I'm all for increasing the parking.
Yeah.
For the boat owners, absolutely.
So if we can put that on for the next meeting, we'll add that within the ordinance. I think it's, count the spots, but I think it's 8.
Now, this past year, we did designate the trailer parking lot for parking for slip owners after a certain time of the day. I think we should get that into the ordinance and keep it from, no one from a restaurant can park in there. That the trailer parking lot would be strictly for slip owners, kayak, and jet ski, and not for people going to the restaurant, and not for employees of the restaurant.
So that would be certain times at night?
Yeah, the trailers generally early in the morning, and they're usually coming out around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And, you know, I think a lot of the slip owners, when they come down in the evening at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, the restaurants are already open, and some of the varsity parking spaces are taken up. But the trailer parking lot is really not far from where the boat slips are, so I think that would work out. So I think we'd probably have to designate that for boat slip owners from like mid-afternoon to the evening.
As that they would have to,
Yeah, why don't you
they
bring
would have
that?
to move in the morning, so it would be time.
That's a good thought.
Well, actually, the restaurant doesn't open up until like 11 or so, so if anyone's going out early in the morning on their boat, they can take those parking spaces where the restaurateurs generally park.
What about the trailers?
The trailers still have to park there because it's so wide, need the trailer parking lot for the trailers.
Right.
Yeah. So why don't you bring that up at the Harbor Commission, see
Yeah.
what they think about that.
Yeah, we have a meeting next week.
Yeah. I think that will work out. Okay, Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also attended the menorah lighting last night. It was lovely, and I want to especially thank Chris Randall and his wife Raina for making all the arrangements. DPW did a great job setting up the menorah, having it ready to go. Randall supplied all the latkes and chicken wings and the matzo ball soup. It was just great. It was really, really, really well attended, and just a lovely, lovely evening. This past Saturday, as I mentioned before, I went to a program at the Belmar Public Library. As I said, it was very well attended. Obviously, they know how to get the word out. It was actually really well attended by a lot of people from other towns. I spoke to people from Heights, from Spring Lake, from Wall, and from Lake Como. There were some Belmar people there too. That's the good stuff. The actual presentation of the program left me so disturbed and so concerned that I felt it's really important that I come in and share it here in public with all of you all. The presentation was about climate change, and the presenters were Professor Catherine Brady. They're all from Monmouth University, from the Science Department of Monmouth U. Catherine Brady she's a marine biologist, and she has an expertise in environmental policy. There was also a geologist, Michael Tarullo. He spoke about how you can use geology to measure what climate was like in the past. We saw a lot of graphs of Pleistocene and with all the other epoch eras and stuff, when it was hot, when it was cold. And the assistant dean of the School of Science, Dr. Catherine Duckett, was there. She was amazingly well informed and obviously personally invested in the issue of climate change, because she shared with us that her parents had a house in Paradise, California, burned to the ground. Burned to the ground. The long and short of it is, I'll give you the highlights. By the end of this century, the ocean level is definitely going to rise at least a foot. That's the most conservative estimate. More common are estimates of 3 to 6 feet. 3 to 6 feet. We obviously are going to need to think about that. The big issue seems to be, well, it doesn't seem to be, it is, when they were showing us these graphs about when the temperature went up in the past and when it went down, you could really see it's not just the climate's getting warmer, it's that it's getting warmer so much faster than it ever did before. The rate of change is what's the big problem. If it was getting warmer more gradually, we'd have more time to prepare, the environment would not change as quickly. What's happening, because it's getting so much warmer, is everything's connected. Everything's connected. You've all seen it too. You've all seen it. Certain plants are starting to try to bloom sooner because it's warmer in the spring, yes? The problem is that the pollinating insects like bees and butterflies haven't made that transition the same way the plants have, so the plants aren't able to reproduce because they're not being pollinated. So we're definitely seeing a drop off, and it's not just flowers in your yard, it's crops in the field. Increasing areas of drought, increasing areas of heat, like the fires out in California, that's directly related. But I'm more concerned about what happens to us here. We are mostly affected by the rise in sea level. It was really, I'm getting all upset all over again, because it was really like, it's happening and nothing's going to change. You know, the topic of non-consensus in the scientific community came up. And what really boils down to, when someone says that scientists aren't in consensus, what they're not in consensus about is how much is the ocean going to go up. They all agree that it's going to go up. It's just whether it's a foot or 3 or 6. One other thing we learned about, I thought it was fascinating. The science was fascinating. presentation was very well done. There's a difference between, part of the problem is the glaciers are melting. Glacial ice is melting. Now, if you're talking about glaciers on water, like at the Arctic Circle, that's not going to increase the water volume because the water's already there. It's just frozen. But when it melts, it's not really going to change the amount of water in the ocean, so that's not going to cause any ocean rise. What is going to cause ocean rise is glaciers on land, like in Greenland and particularly in Antarctica, because that ice is not in the ocean. And when it falls in and melts, that's definitely going to make the water go up. And what makes it even worse is, in particular in Antarctica, the weight of the ice is actually pushing the land mass down. It holds it down against the mantle of the earth. As that ice comes off and that weight is released, the land starts to move up. And I mean, we're not talking about feet, we're talking about a couple of inches, and that's all it takes for it to move up. Now what's happened is the water that's already going up is being forced into a smaller space because the land is rising up underneath it. That definitely makes the ocean go up. There's no question about it. What can we do about it? You'll be happy to hear this, Mr. Mayor. Their recommendation was plant as many trees as you can, believe it or not. Because the big issue is the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which goes with the greenhouse gases that helps hold the heat in against the planet, and that's what's making everything get warmer. We need what are, I wish I could remember the word, carbon neutralizers, or carbon, they take carbon out of the atmosphere. That's what trees do. Native plants, they were very big on native plants. We got a lot of kudos for Belmar when I told them that we are planting native plants on the beach, and we have a shade tree commission that makes sure the right trees are planted in the right place. You know, that we have an ordinance about plastic bags, because that's definitely an issue. I asked them, is there any research about plastics in the ocean contributing to the warming of the oceans? And unfortunately there's not really. But I think that's a place that they're going to start to see. The fact that there's plastic material in the water definitely makes it easier for the water to get warmer, because plastic holds warmth more than water does. And the other thing they said, really, besides planting as many trees as you can, trying to reduce your carbon footprint, go solar, once you can, is really talk about it, discuss it. Even if people don't necessarily agree to the degree that we need to worry about this, we need to be aware, particularly as a coastal community. We need to be aware that it is going to affect, if not us personally, our children and our grandchildren. They are going to be dealing with the effects of this ocean level rise and the other climate changes that are going to go with it. And we need to do what we can to help them get through it. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of how much we let it happen. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Councilwoman Nicolay?
The Belmar Arts Council has an exhibit right now. It's affordable art exhibit. It goes through December 28th. So if you're in need of art or Christmas presents, it's affordable. So head over to the Arts Council. The Borough and the Police Department and Public Works are working together on the Santa delivery that they do each year, which is tremendous. I think it's one of the best things that our town offers. It's going to be on December 18th and 19th, starting at 3 p.m. Parents may drop off their wrapped and clearly labeled toy for Santa to deliver the child's name and delivery address, Belmar only, to the Belmar Public Works building between 8 and 2:30 p.m. Needs to be done by December the 14th. So if you have any young children, young grandchildren in Belmar, drop off your wrapped and clearly labeled present for the child. And that is it.
Don't forget the school concert next Thursday night.
Oh,
Yes. No, you say it.
and next Thursday night is the chorus and Belmar Elementary Band holiday concert starting at 7 p.m. It's always a great event, so go to the Belmar Elementary School, 7 p.m. next Thursday.
4 great trumpet players going to play.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Those are quick 2 weeks. I really don't have much to report. Just that for the 3rd year in a row, the Belmar Shade Tree Commission has qualified to become, for the 3rd year in a row, a Tree City USA. So that's a lot of hard work from the Shade Tree Commission, and we're submitting all our year's work to the New Jersey Board, and we're in line for it, so that's great. That's excellent. Really happy for that. This Friday night, did you mention no Christmas tree lighting? Christmas tree lighting ceremonies start at Piano Plaza. Starts at 5:30, and the lights will go on at 6 p.m. And we have a visit from Santa Claus, right?
Arriving by fire truck.
The fire truck, and there are rides from on fire engines. Okay, I'd like to thank the fire department for always contributing to that. So that's all I have for my report. Okay. Next, we move to public session. Public session on the resolutions, only on the agenda. We will continue to have a public session at the end of the meeting. Is there anybody out in the audience that has wants to speak on the anything on the resolution calendar? Seeing none, I make a motion to close the public portion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Next on the consent agenda, I just want to pull the one thing, we don't have to change anything. I see under special events that the St. Rose Grammar School polar bear plunge is scheduled for Saturday, January 26th. The event will take place on the Belmar Beach between 5th and 6th Avenue. The event will begin at 8 a.m. and end by 11 a.m. Here's where I have a little problem. Event organizers will be responsible for lifeguards and first aid. They'll meet with the Belmar Police Department prior to the event. No additional borough resources are qualified. Now, I've been involved in polar bear plunges. You just can't have lifeguards. First of all, lifeguards aren't around, and you need people out in the water with cold water suits on. You probably need a boat. Are these organizers qualified to run a polar bear plunge? I mean, I hate to suddenly become responsible for something happening off the 5th Avenue beach in Belmar in January, something that we approved, and find out that someone jumps into the water and has some type of seizure or something like that, and we don't have the right people there to rescue them. You just can't send a lifeguard from the Belmar Beach in July into the water in January. It's just not going to happen. I mean, that water temperature probably is going to be in the 30s.
Who's running it, St. Rose?
So,
Can we require EMT to be there, or?
I'm looking at Tom, Tom's
Yeah.
looking at me. I know this was workshopped with the police department, and I don't have the notes with me, but if council wishes, we can.
yeah, I'd like to see more detail on how they're going to run this, especially how they're going to protect the water for the bathers in the water. 5th and 6th Avenue, I know over the years it's changed a little bit. That's pretty much of a drop. You know, so when people go running in, they're gonna, you know, I don't know what the tide at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock is. If it's mid-tide or high tide, these people, when they go in the water, they're going under. If it's low tide, it's a little bit easier. I know, like, I've done it in Manasquan at the main beach. It's a shallow beach, so you can run in to your waist and then duck down. But if you run in and you run into a drop and you go underwater, and some people, especially if they're kids or somebody older, we've got a potential problem. So I'd like to see someone come forward and tell us who they're going to have watching the water. And they're going to have first aid. I mean, I'm sure our water safety people are qualified to do it. But have they been asked?
Let's have the captain have an opportunity to go back and discuss it with his colleagues.
All right, I can
Because
tell
it
you-
could be that this concern has been addressed, but let's get you the right information.
Just so you know, I can tell everybody that on the 26th of January, low tide's at 5 a.m. and high tide's at 11:30, so 8 o'clock is right in the middle of the tide change.
That's a bit tied on it.
That's coming in.
It's coming in.
Harry Horse is right there. You agree with me, Harry, that that beach is pretty,
It has leveled out a bit over the past few years, but you definitely need to have some people there with suits on. I've run a couple polar bear plunges, and we've had the water rescue team there as well as some state and Marine police folks out there as well.
yeah, but I'd like to make sure all our Ts are crossed and our Is dotted for this.
We'll get you that information.
I think that's probably not a good tide to be having the polar bear punch.
How one's coming in.
Yeah, I don't know why they chose Fifth and Sixth Avenue. There might be a shallower beach, where they could run out a little bit further and at low tide, high tide, or tide's getting lower and just dump underwater instead of running into the drop and going under. So can we just pull that,
Part of the special
that
event.
special event ordinance and then just go with the consent agenda?
You need a motion to amend the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Resolution as amended.
Do a second?
Second?
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All opposed?
All right, with that settled consent agenda, all matters, losing my voice. All matters listed in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Borough Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Very good.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Councilman Belmar?
Yes.
Councilman Walker?
Just on the bill resolution list, 16856, I'll abstain on that, and the rest is yes.
And Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Okay, I think, April, you take over resolution authorizing executive session. You have to read something?
Yes. Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas there's adequate notice to the public of this meeting, and whereas the Borough Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Borough Council as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion and action upon the hereinafter specified subject matter. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is pending litigation involving 10th Avenue freeze-out and Steve Lita. Minutes will be kept of the closed session, and it is anticipated at this time that the above subject matter will be made public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists, and this resolution shall take effect immediately. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going into executive session for a little bit. We will return and for the public portion of the meeting. So we will be back.
Oh, yeah.
He's gonna say.
He's still there.
Okay.
Okay, April? All
Yeah, we're good to go.
right, we have to make a motion to resume.
No, we did that in closed session, so
Okay.
we can move right on to the resolution authorizing the settlement agreement.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to pass a resolution authorizing, resolution authorizing settlement agreement with 10th Avenue Freeze Out. Do I have a second?
Second reading.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Lucifer?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Okay, now we move to public session. Does anybody out in the audience wish to come forward and express any views to the microphone? Seeing none, I will make a motion to close the public session. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And I make a motion to close this meeting. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What's that? Just do red.
Bigger.
Oh, my God. Red.